Trouble continues to mount for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. In the latest setback at home, Israel's Supreme Court has struck down a controversial law passed by the Prime Minister's government. On Monday, the Supreme Court ruled 8-7 in favor of striking down a contentious law that had triggered countrywide protests for months. The new legislation passed by Israel's right-wing government had weakened the judicial powers. The provision had struck down on the Supreme Court's ability to quash certain government decisions. The law was part of a judicial overhaul which led to massive protests across Israel. For 39 weeks, thousands of Israelis took to the streets every Saturday protesting against Netanyahu's move to weaken the judicial system that critics feared would severely undermine Israel's democratic institutions. The Prime Minister's party has called the Supreme Court's decision to strike down a provision of the judicial overhaul a quote-unquote opposition to the nation's desire for unity, especially in time of war. Israel's Justice Minister has also slammed the verdict, accusing the top court of quote-unquote taking into their hands all the powers. The court ruling comes as a major setback for Benjamin Netanyahu, as the leader is currently in the middle of a corruption trial. The proceedings had earlier paused after the deadly October 7th attack, but the trial resumed on December 4th last year. Netanyahu is facing a slew of charges including fraud, bribery and breach of trust in 3 separate cases which were filed in 2019. The Supreme Court thwarting the Netanyahu government's attempt to dilute judicial powers. There remains concerns over how the simmering constitutional crisis plays out for Israel's longest-serving prime minister yet. Our correspondent Jody Cohen has sent us this report from Tel Aviv.
I'm at Hostages Square in Tel Aviv, where relatives of the roughly 130 remaining hostages gather as testimony comes out from released hostages, as well as investigations such as that of the New York Times, which appears to confirm what Israel says was Hamas's systematic use of rape and torture. The anguish of the relatives is growing, and many believe time is...
WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.